When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
Canva presents a work love story like no other. Meet Productivity. She's all business.
The Canva doc is done.
Creativity is more of a free thinker.
Whiteboard brainstorm.
They're worlds apart, but sometimes opposites attract. Thanks to Canva.
The data is in the deck.
And now it's an animated graph.
Canva, where productivity meets creativity. Now showing on computer screens everywhere. Love your work at canva.com.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
Welcome to Fruit Loops, Buiti Binafi, and Bienvenidos Bitches. Thank you so much for listening. Fruit Loops is a true crime, history, and comedy podcast that delves into the often overlooked stories of serial killers of color and, more importantly, the victims. We take deep dives into the lives and crimes of these killers worldwide, while also examining the history, culture, and social factors that may have influenced their actions. And the reason that we cover these crimes is because they often go unnoticed by the public. And why is that? Because in the simplest of terms, the news is racist. Allegedly.
And we are Wendy and Beth. She's Wendy, a Black Latinx woman, and I'm Beth, and I just happen to be white. That's just a little piece of who we are. Another piece is that although we are both fascinated by true crime, really fascinated by true crime, and we know a lot about it, keep in mind that we are not journalists, investigators, or psychologists, and the opinions expressed in this podcast are just that, our opinions.
Okay, who are we talking about today, friend?
Well, this is our episode 251 on James Edward Pough, an American mass murderer responsible for 2 separate shooting attacks in Jacksonville, Florida, in June of 1990, killing or wounding a total of 17 people. And this subject was suggested to us by Gray at CrimeCon UK.
Thank you so much, Gray. We're going to give you a hip-hop air horn because this was a case we'd never heard of, and it was really interesting to research. So thank you, Gray.
Yeah.
So before we get into the true crime of it all, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. So everything's kind of status quo right now.
Okay.
Work is a little better, so that's good.
Nice.
The only bad thing is my birthday is next week, and I'm not happy about it.
Wait. I'm sorry. Can you explain why you're not happy about it? Also, your birthday
older.
Sneaks up on me every fucking
year.
I
know, because I don't.
You don't
like,
say
it's
anything.
Not something and I turned it off on my Facebook account, and it's not something that. I don't know. I don't like attention.
Okay.
So, which is a really weird thing for somebody who's on a podcast to say. But I don't. Yeah. I don't really like attention, so I don't want people to make a big deal out of it. But
Well, tough
yeah.
nuggets. Happy birthday, bitch.
Thanks. So as I get older, I just like it less and less.
Yeah.
It just reminds me I'm getting closer to death.
Oh, Beth, well, think of the alternative.
I know.
You know,
But still.
and I'm happy that you get another year with
Well,
us,
thank you.
and I'm grateful for every day that you're in my life. But I was going to say, at my old job, your current job, I used to be like the birthday girl. So I go
that's
around.
right.
I
You'd
knew
hand out all
everybody's
the cards.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so I would never miss your birthday then.
Right. Yeah.
Now that I don't don't have a reminder in the same fashion, I am so sorry. I missed it.
Not a big deal. I don't advertise usually. I just
Okay.
mentioned it, because I'm kind of bummed out about it.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could take all the bummed outness away.
Oh, well.
But it's not 100% bummed out, right? Just
kind of bummed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes me a little sad, that I'm
I
getting
understand
older.
that. I understand that. Yeah, I mean, boy, oh boy, somebody was like, man, your kids, Wendy, are so big. And I was like, yeah, they just won't stop growing. Like time.
Yeah, they just keep going.
Yeah, time just keeps going and it gets all of us, really.
Yeah, it does.
So
I don't like it.
Well, I'm happy you're having a birthday.
Well, thanks.
And I hope that you get what you want on the day. If you
thanks.
want to be left alone, that people leave you the fuck alone, you know? And that's my wish for you. Happy
Well,
birthday,
thank you.
Beth.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Me over here,
Yeah.
doing okay. I'm safe. We're together. We have what we need.
Yay.
Woosah.
Good to hear.
Yes. And today I'm in Bathroom Studios. I think I was in
Oh.
here last week. So this is
Well,
going to be the
cool. Whatever
spot for a
works.
minute.
Yeah,
Yep.
for a little while.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into some listener letters, shall we?
All right. Well, hello, angels. Thank you. It's been a while. It's been a
That,
minute.
I know. I love to hear them come down from the heavens. What's in that bag, Beth?
Well, I wanted to say thank you to Damon for your lovely email and for your generous contribution on the Cash App.
Yes. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thank you.
Damon.
And also to Millie on IG, your message totally made my day.
Yeah, mine
Wendy
too.
sent it over to me, and I was,
Yeah.
So thank you.
We really appreciate the kind words. We do our best. We're not perfect or anything like that, but it means a lot to us when y'all reach out. So, million thank yous.
Yes. And if any of you have questions or comments, please send them to fruitloopspod@gmail.com. Or you can also leave us a voicemail at 602-935-6294. And we may feature it on a future episode. But if you don't want us to, just let us know and we won't.
Simple
It's
as
simple as
that.
that. Yep.
Now, Damon, anybody who supports this show via the multiple forms, such as you have in Cash App or Patreon, we like to give our gratitude with a tune.
Yeah.
Just to preserve our thank you for you on wax forever. This will live on the internet forever, so I hope you don't hate it. Okay. Whatever you want from me, we're giving you everything. Thank you, Damon, tonight. Thank you, Damon.
Good one. Thank you, Damon.
Thank you, Damon.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a quick break and then we'll get into the story when we come back.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
All right, we're back. Remind us, Beth, who is our subject today?
Our subject today is James Edward Pough, who committed what is considered to be one of the first workplace mass shootings in U.S. history, and the deadliest single mass shooting committed by a lone gunman in Florida history until 2016 and the Pulse shooting, in which 49 people were killed.
All right, now let's move on to the love and light section of our show, where we just say rest in power to the victims whose lives were cut short. Also, love and light and healing energy to anybody who was injured or harmed by this case. Love and light to all of the survivors and victims' loved ones, the entire community that was left in the wake of this crime as well. Our hearts go out to you. So the victims' names are Louis Carl Bacon, 39, Doretta Drake, 30, Jewel Belote, 50, Julia White Burgess, 42, Janice David, 40, Sharon Louise Hall, 45, Denise Sapp Highfill, 36, Barbara Duckwall Holland, 45, Cynthia L. Perry, 30, Lee Simonton, 33, and Drew Woods, 38. So now let's get into the setting. Take us there, Beth.
The setting is Jacksonville, Florida, but Hansontown, where our subject grew up, was a black community in Jacksonville. Originally a farming cooperative established for black Union soldiers, Hansontown was founded in 1866 by Dr. Daniel Dustin Hanson, a surgeon with the 34th Regiment U.S. Colored Infantry.
Wow.
Yeah.
A town named after a black man. You don't see that too often in these United States. So,
True
wow.
that.
Especially in Jacksonville. I did a lot of history on racism in Jacksonville. Too much to put in the episode. But there's a ton of places named after Confederate generals. So to see this is really
wild.
It's blowing my mind. So just a year after emancipation, Dr. Hanson purchased land northwest of Jacksonville's city core with the goal of creating a self-sustaining community. Beautiful. Dr. Hanson envisioned a communal farming settlement where black Civil War veterans and freedmen could cultivate and sell crops and pool their earnings to achieve land ownership.
Though Dr. Hanson passed away in 1868, his vision endured. By the late 1880s, Hansontown had grown to over 1,600 residents before Jacksonville annexed it. Yeah.
Those fuckers.
Over time, it developed into a working-class neighborhood distinguished by its irregular street grid and rows of shotgun-style houses, which are narrow, rectangular homes that are typically one room wide and multiple rooms deep.
Yeah, they say when you open the front door and the back door, you could shoot a shotgun through it and not hit anything.
Right.
I thought that was a weird way to describe a home.
Yes.
So these homes are most commonly found in the southern United States, where they became popular in the 19th and early 20th centuries. They were affordable, easy to build, and well suited to hot climates, since their design allowed for natural ventilation.
But just like other black communities in the segregated South, Hansontown faced systemic neglect and limited access to resources. As the years passed, Hansontown struggled with a declining infrastructure, including unpaved streets and deteriorating housing.
Many residents lived in small, crowded housing, and Hansontown was often referred to as the bottom because of its low-lying geographic location and its socioeconomic conditions, which were created, by the way.
Yep.
These conditions made the neighborhood a target for urban renewal programs, which I've said on this show before is a euphemism for Negro removal programs.
Yeah. Federal quote-unquote slum clearance initiatives, particularly those spurred by the Housing Acts of 1937 and 1949, sought to modernize cities by demolishing deteriorated housing and replacing it with new developments.
Yeah, but it only helps the people who have means
money
to move into those new developments. The people who've been displaced, who gives a fuck about them? Am I right? No, that's the attitude.
Right.
So that all sounds nice, but in actuality, these programs disproportionately displaced low-income communities of color, often replacing affordable housing with commercial or higher-cost residences and decimating communities. And Hansontown was not spared.
In 1942, large portions of its western section were demolished to make way for public housing. Later in the 1970s, further redevelopment erased much of the neighborhood. Interstate 95 was built straight through it. Another thing that they like to do.
We commonly see.
Yep. Build an interstate right through a black community. And by 1974, Florida Junior College, which is now Florida State College at Jacksonville, began acquiring the remaining blocks to construct its downtown campus, which opened in 1977.
All that is left of the once thriving neighborhood of Hansontown are remnants of the original brick roads. 20th century redevelopment policies have had lasting economic and social effects on low-income and minority communities. Vibrant black communities were destroyed and their cultural heritage erased, which has often led to generational instability.
Yeah.
So, let's get into the early life of Pough. What do you got, Beth?
Well, James Edward Pough was born on February 16th, 1948, and he was the first of 9 children. So a lot of kids. And as we mentioned in our history section of the full podcast, which is cut short for Fruit Loop Short, he grew up in Hansontown, a black neighborhood which no longer exists and is now the site of Florida State College Jacksonville's downtown campus.
He suffered from asthma, and he had a close relationship with his mother. By the way, gotta say real quick about asthma. It's not uncommon in, I'm thinking of the Bronx, which has a really high rate of kids with asthma, black and brown
kids,
of the pollution, poor kids. Yes, because of pollution, and also because of their proximity to, industry and waste.
Right.
You know, the establishment in the municipality will say, hey, the landfill can go here.
Can go over by the black
neighborhood
community.
where black people live. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things like that are not uncommon. And sometimes I think you can draw a line or a link between how did the housing development and the way their community was set up and led to asthma. Anyway, all that to say, he had a close relationship with his mother, especially after his father left the family in 1959.
So he was born in 48. He had 8 siblings. The father left in 1959. So the mom was having kids every year, and then the father just left.
Bailed. Yeah.
Horrible.
So Pough attended vocational school, but he dropped out in his sophomore year. And at the age of 18, he began working as a common laborer.
His early years were marked by reported associations with street gangs, and we've talked about that's a survival skill. Or I don't know if skill is the right word.
Yeah, or a means of survival to join some sort of community, right? And for safety,
to help you. Yeah. And he had multiple arrests for offenses such as attempted robbery, assault, and vagrancy prowling by auto, which sounded really weird to me. So I had to look it up, and this now largely defunct charge was used to arrest individuals for driving under quote-unquote suspicious circumstances.
Okay, we can read between the lines there.
Yeah.
So historically, broad vagrancy laws in some cities and states criminalize behaviors linked to poverty, idleness, or perceived suspicious activity. But they never call it that, right? They give it another name. So vagrancy prowling by auto was one such law, often used to target marginalized groups for simply driving around. So driving while black. Yeah. And, this is kind of the leftover crumbs from slavery, the American gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
But real
Jim
quick,
Crow laws.
Yeah. Culture Corner with Wendy and Beth. So after slavery, vagrancy laws were a part of a set of laws or black codes enacted by states and municipalities to control black people's bodies, their conduct, and their labor. Something that was hard to do after emancipation. All this property is just walking around, property, aka black people, and we couldn't control them anymore. So the laws were enacted to allow authorities to arrest black people for just standing around or driving around or minding their business. And then they would get detained, incarcerated, and forced to work on like a chain gang, or even could be auctioned off to a planter or somebody who needed a laborer. And some statutes required black people to have written proof of employment. Literally, show me your papers to prove they had permission to leave their job. And any black person who was stopped without a permit from a white employer could be arrested for vagrancy.
That's fucked up. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously.
it is. Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up.
It is. I don't like it.
Not a fan. Not a fan of that.
No.
So as an adult, James lived on Jacksonville's north side, an area comprising a blend of residential, industrial, and commercial spaces. It had a significant black population and was home to many working-class black families. Pough worked and took care of his younger siblings, who called him Pop, so that's where he got the nickname Pop.
Got it.
Which makes sense because his dad left, so he became their father figure. Yeah.
Took on that role. In 1971, James Edward Pough took a gun from his girlfriend's purse and shot his friend, David Lee Pender, 3 times in the chest, killing him.
Yikes.
Yeah. It says he was a friend, but the attack occurred after the 2 men and their girlfriends left a nightclub following an argument in which David insulted Pough's girlfriend.
Pough was initially charged with murder, though the charge was later reduced to manslaughter. He was eventually allowed to plead guilty to aggravated assault, and he was sentenced to 5 years probation, but his adjudication was withheld.
5 years probation for taking a life.
For murder.
For murder, which is, I think that kind of plays a role in his mentality later on. In my opinion, I'll get into it in my takes.
Okay, all right.
So adjudication withheld means that although the defendant pleaded guilty or was found guilty, the court did not issue a formal conviction. Instead, the defendant is placed on probation, and if they successfully complete it, the charges will be dismissed with no conviction. However, if they fail to complete the probation, a guilty verdict will be entered and the defendant will be sentenced.
So it's a special sentence that allows the defendant to complete conditions instead of serving jail time and therefore avoid having a criminal record. Mm-hmm. And it's usually used for first-time offenders or less serious offenses.
Right.
So we're not sure why he was offered this, but he was. And in any case, according to his family, Pough never got over the fact that he killed his friend. So maybe he showed a lot of remorse. Yeah. And that's why. I don't know. But apparently he never got over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how that manifested. I mean, in his relationships. We'll talk about those in a second.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
So after 1971, Pough's troubles were mostly financial. In 1977, the General Finance Corp, which had lent him $919 2 years earlier, won a judgment when he fell behind on his monthly payments. That same year, Main Street Radiator sued him for $302 that he owed them in car repair bills. Now, that was a lot of money back then in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
But it's also a lot of money if you don't have it. So
yeah, I always say $20 is a lot of money. It might as well be $1,000 if you don't have it.
Yeah, just send me the bill. I'll just laugh at it. I can't pay it. So.
Can't pay it. Yeah. In December of 1988, Pough traded in his old car for a brand new Pontiac Grand Am. At some point, Pough got married. We're not sure when, but by 1989, he was married to a woman named Teresa.
So things must have turned around, money-wise.
Yeah, I guess so, money-wise. But I was thinking, after he got in trouble for killing his friend, it seemed like he was not getting in any trouble after that, except for financially. Like, he didn't get arrested for anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he got this new Pontiac, and
he's married, yeah.
Yeah, we've been moving on up. Sorry, I'll stop. So it is said that he led a quiet life. It's always the quiet ones. Rarely had visitors, and he didn't seem to drink. He worked as a laborer in construction at a place called W.W. Gay, where it was said that he had a positive attitude and rarely missed work, even working on weekends. His employers liked and respected him, describing him as the kind of employee that, quote, they like to keep, unquote.
Pough usually left for work around 6:30 a.m. with his hard hat, a cooler, and a thermos in hand, and then returned home about 4 p.m. In his spare time, he liked to work out with weights and bet at the dog track.
Yeah, so pretty like
normal.
Regular dude stuff.
Yeah.
He was known by his neighbors as a quiet and nice man who kept a regular and fixed schedule, though also as someone you should never cross because he had a very bad temper. And red flag alert. So he was known to anger easily and fairly quickly. And he sometimes engaged in rage-filled conversations, which is, I don't even know how you have a conversation when you're filled with rage. It would just be like heavy breathing and foaming at the mouth.
And yelling.
Yeah. Clearly, he was probably the only one engaged in these conversations.
Conversations,
when somebody gets so mad and you're just like looking at them like, wow.
What the fuck?
How did that happen? And he would get like this, especially in matters concerning money and his car.
Claire is practicing her breathing for her upcoming yoga retreat in Bali. Has she ever done yoga before? No. But Claire worked with Empower on her savings and investment strategy. She got good at money, so she can be a little bad. Empower. Invest well, live a little. Join our 19 million customers today at empower.com.
Past performance is not indicative of future returns. Investing involves risks. You may lose money. Advisory services are provided for a fee by Empower Advisor Group, LLC, EAG, a registered investment advisor with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Om Namaste.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Business. How can you free up your team from time-consuming office tasks? Amazon Business empowers leaders to not only streamline purchasing, but better support their teams so they can focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future. Learn more about the technology, insights, and support available at amazonbusiness.com.
Now we're going to move on to the timeline. Hit it, Beth.
So Pough's mother died in 1987. As we mentioned earlier, he had a close relationship with her and he'd taken care of her for years. So afterwards, Pough was said to have changed for the worse. And it was around this time that Pough was sometimes heard to say that he had, quote, nothing left to live for, unquote, and that he would, quote, take someone with him when he leaves this world, unquote.
Not wow. Good. Yeah, no, not good. And, I think we all understand loss, right? The loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
And those feelings of
helplessness.
What do I do now? Yeah, hopelessness. But I've never once thought I'm going to take somebody with me.
No, never.
So that is, I think that's unusual. Unfortunately, he often had violent outbursts directed at his wife, Teresa. Twice, he threatened her by putting a gun to her head. Understandably, Teresa feared for her safety, and in January of 1990, she left him.
That same month, Pough's Grand Am was repossessed by General Motors Acceptance Corporation, or GMAC, after Pough got behind on his payments.
Oof.
And in March, Pough received a bill for outstanding fees from GMAC in the amount of $6,394, which is a shit ton of money.
Oh, my God. Yeah. In the 90s?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Even now.
Yeah.
Also, in March, at the same time, Teresa was granted an injunction that prohibited Pough from contacting her for a year. So a lot of shit was going down.
A lot of shit was going down. But this reminds me of that song called The Message that dropped in 1982 by Grandmaster Flash.
Okay.
'Cause a man with a tow truck repossessed my car. Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. And that is where our subject finds himself today. Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah. So Pough became reclusive and rarely socialized. He was the only tenant in a 3-building set of rundown duplexes on West 22nd Street in Moncrief Park, a majority black neighborhood in Jacksonville's northwest quadrant. He had lived in the upstairs apartment of the Central Building for 10 years.
For the first couple of weeks in June, Pough's neighbors on West 22nd Street reported that he was firing guns into the air every night.
Yikes.
Wow. Was he getting ready for Juneteenth? No. So then on June 16th, a Saturday night, Pough took his green Buick out for a drive.
That night, 2 teenagers, Chris Shorter and Lynette Johnson, were sitting on a car outside of Lynette's mother's house. Chris and Lynette always felt safe in their neighborhood. They knew that crime existed, but their lives were filled with love. Lynette came from a close-knit family. Her mother, Louise, was a nurse, and both she and her sister, Valerie, followed in her mother's footsteps.
Around 11 p.m., as the teenagers sat there talking, Pough drove by and slowed down to stop and ask them something. Chris went to the Buick and leaned down to see what the man wanted. A gleam from the back seat caught his peripherals, and when he looked, he saw a semi-automatic rifle laying on the back seat.
As Chris backed up from the car, Pough began asking for directions. Chris later said, quote, "This man say, 'Do you know where?' And I backed up and he shot me," unquote. He shot Chris in the shoulder with a .38 caliber revolver.
He then shot Lynette in the chest and in the back. Thankfully, they both survived, and Chris was able to describe the shooter and the green Buick to police.
Lynette's sister Valerie later recalled, quote, "We all used to love to sit outside at night, on the step outside my mama's house. Springtime, summertime, listening to all the cars on the expressway," unquote.
Oh, man. That sounds like I can see it.
Yes.
I can smell it. I can hear it.
Feel
right?
it. Yeah.
But after that night, everything changed. The teens no longer felt safe, not outside, not near a window, not even in their own home or a car. Lynette carried a bullet in her lung until she died in 2015.
Wow. So later that same night, at about 12:50 a.m., a man named Louis Carl Bacon, 39, described by his family as a disabled veteran, was shot 1 block north and 1 block east of Pough's apartment. Shortly afterward, a woman named Doretta Drake was shot on the corner of Myrtle and West 22nd Street, on the same block as Pough's apartment.
Louis was shot twice in the chest, and Doretta was shot once in the head, both with a rifle. They both died. Because the two were involved in the sex industry, many articles at the time did not even give their names, just referred to them as a pimp and a prostitute.
Horrible.
Yeah, we know they're much more than that. They were human beings, somebody's child, relative, friend, etc. But police assumed that the reason behind these killings was a failed sex for money deal. So they don't have to investigate it?
Right, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it was just a failed sex for money deal.
Yeah.
No biggie.
Yeah, no biggie. Unbelievable.
So Pough shot Chris Shorter, Lynette Johnson, Louis Carl Bacon, and Doretta Drake within 7 blocks Saturday night. And Pough lived right in the middle. The next day, Sunday, which happened to be Father's Day, police began knocking on doors in Pough's neighborhood, asking questions. They knocked on Pough's apartment door, but no one answered, so they just left a calling card on the door, basically a business card.
Some reports say that Pough also robbed a convenience store that day, but we could not find confirmation of this. In any case, on the morning of Monday, June 18th at about 10:45 a.m., Pough went to the GMAC's auto loan office located in Baymeadows, a suburban upper-middle-class, mostly white neighborhood. And he was carrying a semi-automatic rifle, which Bruh.
Yeah.
What?
Bruh. GMAC had no security measures or bulletproof glass. Pough just walked right in without saying a word and began shooting.
Oh my
And
God.
as an aside, in June of 1990, mass shootings in the United States had only a slightly longer history than the mass production of assault rifles.
No, get out.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Which took off after Colt's patent for the AR-15 design expired in 1977. And with that patent no longer in effect, other manufacturers began producing their own versions of the AR-15, contributing to the widespread availability of AR-style rifles.
Well, geez, I think of... now we know who to point the finger at. It's Colt's fault.
Well, I don't... Yeah. No. I don't know.
We'll get into more on that later.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get into it or not, but
well, just on the gun debate on the
yes, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
So 86 employees sat at their desks and cubicles in the auto loan office, but it was the customers that Pough shot first.
Julia White Burgess, a 42-year-old customer from Green Cove Springs, was Pough's first victim. She was waiting at the front counter to make a car payment on her son's car when Pough started shooting. Another customer, 24-year-old David Hendricks of Jacksonville, who had stopped to make a payment on his pickup, was seriously wounded, gunshots collapsing both of his lungs.
Then Cynthia Perry, 30, of Melrose, and Barbara Holland, 45, of Jacksonville, who worked side by side near the front counter, were shot dead at their desks.
Panicked workers ran towards exits and hid under desks as Pough methodically made his way through the office. Janice David, 40, and Nancy Dill, 31, both of Jacksonville, were shot together. Janice died.
Although Nancy was shot in her abdomen, both arms, and both legs, she survived. Wow. Newspapers reported that Nancy had been shot 13 times. When asked about it later, Nancy said that she was only shot 7 times, but had 13 holes. So,
oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Also killed that morning were Drew Woods, a 36-year-old credit representative, GMAC employee Sharon Louise Hall, 45, and Lee Simonton, 33-year-old customer relations manager, both of Jacksonville. 50-year-old GMAC stenographer Jewel Belote was shot and initially survived, but died of her wounds 10 days later.
Numerous calls to 911 documented the victim's terror as Pough moved through the office, poking his semi-automatic rifle under desks and shooting some of the victims 5 to 7 times. Various callers described the weapon as a semi-automatic, and one incorrectly called it an AK-47.
If you don't know guns, I mean, they all look the same to me.
They all look the same, yeah.
So then Sheriff James McMillan said, quote, "He just shot until there was no one else to shoot," unquote. Lieutenant Steve Weintraub, who was the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office spokesman at the time, later said, quote, "That was the worst crime scene I've ever seen as a police officer. I've never seen such carnage," unquote.
Robert Highfill, a Jackson police officer, had returned home that morning after playing tennis when another officer stopped by to tell him about the shooting at GMAC. Highfill's wife, Denise Sapp Highfill, 36, worked at the loan company. Highfill called GMAC. There was no answer. He called the police communications officer, who knew nothing about his wife. He and the other officer decided to drive down to the GMAC office. Highfill found out that his wife had been taken to the hospital. When he arrived at University Medical Center, he learned that his wife had died.
Oh, that's awful. Within just a few minutes, Pough had murdered 9 people and injured 4 others. Pough's final act was to pull a .38 revolver and shoot himself in the head. It was the same gun he'd used to shoot Chris and Lynette. So that is all for the timeline. Now we're going to move on into the investigation. Police found 50 spent ammunition shells and 3 different weapons: a .30 caliber rifle, a .38 caliber revolver, and a 9mm pistol found in the trunk of his Buick. Pough was connected to the murders of Louis Bacon and Doretta Drake. and the shootings of Chris Shorter and Lynette Johnson through ballistics.
Under federal law, Pough was technically ineligible to own a gun because he pleaded guilty to a felony in the 1971 case, the murder case.
Yeah.
But under Florida law, he could own a gun because the judge who handled his case withheld adjudication, meaning that the felony was erased from his record when he successfully completed his 5-year probation.
Oh my God. If there was a giant crack, this just slipped through it. Yeah, this is it. So now let's get into where are they now and the aftermath. So obviously Pough died and he didn't leave any notes or anything, no manifesto about why he did what he did. GMAC never returned to the office park where the shootings occurred. And a week after the massacre, workers pried the black wooden letters off the building and moved to another Jacksonville office park.
This incident remained the deadliest single mass shooting committed by a lone gunman in Florida history until June 12, 2016, and the Pulse shooting, when 29-year-old Omar Mateen opened fire at a popular LGBTQ+ nightclub in Orlando, Florida, killing 49 people and injuring 53 others before being killed by law enforcement. Stay tuned for that story. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, there's unfortunately, this is not uncommon.
Yeah.
So in 2019, Florida State College at Jacksonville presented the play, The Repossession of James Edward Pough, Mass Shooting in Baymeadows, based on the book by Tim Gilmore, a professor at the school. And one of the victims' surviving children was very upset about that play.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So,
did they say why?
Yeah, she just didn't believe that it was, the creator of the play didn't consult with her.
Okay.
Or any of the survivors or surviving family members. And the daughter was upset that it was bringing this all back up, and that wasn't fair to her.
Okay.
All concerns which are valid, and I hear her.
Right. I was just curious why. If the play was like really disrespectful, or I didn't know.
Well, the daughter thought that it was.
Okay.
And the interviews of people and the daughter took place before anybody had seen the play. So I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't see the play or anything. I think it was put on at Florida State College. So obviously I wouldn't have seen it. I did get some information from Tim Gilmore.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the part about the teenagers who were shot. That was all information that he found out. A lot of the articles put the incidents the other way, like Lewis and Doretta.
Oh, in a different order.
Yeah, they said they were shot first and then Chris and Lynette. But it actually was the other way around, at least according to Chris and Lynette. They got shot at like 11 o'clock, and Doretta and Lewis got shot later on in the evening.
I see. Wait, do you know Tim Gilmore?
No, he wrote the book that play was based on.
Okay. I thought you called him or something.
Oh, yeah, I gave him a call. He's my bud. No.
Well, I mean, you are the OG of true crime. It wouldn't surprise me. I just had to confirm. But
he interviewed Chris and Lynette.
I see. Wow. Okay. Well, let's move on to what
let's do it.
Our takes on the case and what we think made Pough snap. So, what are your thoughts on this case, Beth?
Well, first I want to say that it's bizarre to read articles from 1990 about a renewed debate about gun control and mass shootings.
I thought that was really bizarre as well. That's a perfect word for it.
And here we are 35 years later having the exact same conversations and debates, and nothing's getting better. In fact, everything's getting worse. So
that's the only difference.
It's horrible.
The conversations, the language is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Today, the beverage aisle looks a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering the options everyone wants. In fact, nearly 60% of beverages Americans buy have zero sugar. You'll find more variety than ever, including more of your favorites, now available with zero sugar. You'll also find more sizes and clear calorie information on the front of every can, bottle, and pack. We know when it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
And a lot of the articles talked about how the repossession of Pough's car took place in January, and they weren't sure of the connection between that and the shootings.
What?
And I think it's obviously connected.
Yeah.
He lost his mom, his wife left him, then his car was repossessed, and he was sent that huge bill for it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was probably the last straw.
Yep.
And I mean, he chose GMAC as the place to commit his mass shooting. So, of course, it was connected.
Right.
Now, why he shot Louis Bacon, Doretta Drake, Chris Shorter, and Lynette Johnson, I don't think we'll ever know.
Yeah.
But I think it was the beginning of the end. I think after he decided to commit those crimes and went through with it, he was too far gone to come back. He was ready to go out and take some other people with him, as he had threatened to do.
Right.
So,
He said he was going to do it.
Yep. He said he was, and he did it.
And he did.
And why did he get to this point?
Yeah.
I don't think he ever learned how to deal with his emotions.
Yep.
He snapped in 1971 when he killed his friend, David Pender. He was like so remorseful about it. Like, he didn't mean to do it, you know?
Yeah, but he
did it.
Was one of those people who got so angry that he blacked
He
out.
just
and
lost
I didn't
his
see
mind.
those words,
Yeah.
but that's what I imagine. Yeah.
And he snapped when he was angry with his wife. He snapped when his life was falling apart. Yeah. And this is a problem for some men.
Yep.
You know, they're often told as young boys to just suck it up.
Man
without
up.
being, man up, or called pussies or whatever. But they're not given any tools for dealing with strong emotions. So, you know, they suck it up until they can't suck it up anymore. And then they beat somebody up or, you know, shoot somebody. So
I agree.
It's not good.
I think that this is a male problem. You know, I've been trying to think about because the world is fundamentally way, way different than it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And just thinking about, like, imagine a world without dangerous men.
Imagine a world.
Or imagine a world without racism. Imagine a world without sex. Like, can you imagine how dope all that shit would be?
Yeah.
But we're not there yet. All that to say, I think this is a problem with men, and I don't know if anybody but men can fix this problem. The same way I think that
well, it's a societal problem. I mean, we're all involved in it. You know, the way we raise our children, you know.
Yeah.
The way we treat our boys.
Yes. But don't you think a lot of the onus
once they get to be an adult. Once they get to be an adult, then it's their problem. They need to fix it.
Well, I'm just saying that the role of men in society to, you know, do away with toxic masculinity and teaching younger men and boys and being an example of how you live this life where you have the tools and skills to deal with strong emotions. I think they call it at my kids' school. It's plastered everywhere. Social and emotional learning.
Yeah. I mean, the onus is on men, but it is something we should all work on. Yeah.
Thank you. You've heard it here, folks, from the OG of true crime. Yeah, the gun debate, same shit, different day. The only difference is that it's worse. In my research about Jacksonville, I learned that it had an intense racial violence and discrimination history from the 1880s to this day. There was just too many cases to name, but just a couple, if you're curious, because I found them fascinating stories. The Axe Handle Saturday murders. And in 2023, there was a mass shooter who targeted Black residents at a store and killed 3 Black people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, Jacksonville is no stranger. It's like any other American city to history of racial issues and violence. And I think now in 2025, I mean, are there any places that have not had a mass shooting? You know what I mean? Like, is there any town around here that hasn't been touched by gun violence? My first thoughts were sort of in another way saying what Beth just said. Like, he lost things. He lost his dad through abandonment. He lost his friend due to anger issues. He lost his mom. He lost his car. He lost his wife. Starting to sound like a country music song, right? But I don't think that he ever learned to deal with those things. I mean, the fight with his friend where he killed his friend, I guess his friend just called his girlfriend a bitch. something that could have been worked out through a little conversation.
Definitely. Or just walk away, you know?
He just didn't have the aptitude to be able to deal with conflict, stress, or even setbacks. And death, to me, I got the impression after he blacked out, did something really bad, and took his friend's life, he was remorseful, but it could have also maybe seemed to him like death is a solution to problems, and I won't really get in that much trouble for it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Didn't the last time, so...
Right. Yeah. So if there's no consequence for bad behavior, and then all these consequences did start to happen, right? His wife left because of his anger issues. His car was repossessed because he, had financial issues. Then we end up with the case that we talked about today.
Right.
I also thought about the state of America around this time, right? Reagan was leaving office. Papa Bush was in charge. But before them, President Jimmy Carter was president, and he was all about mental health support and mental health programs and policies. But as soon as Republicans came in, they just shut all that shit down. So I wonder what resources would have been available to him, to someone like him, Black, with financial problems, if he had reached out, just given, the way America was. And I was struck by how many people lost their lives in that one, short period. And how many people were injured.
Just within a few
descriptions,
minutes.
of the people who were like terrified at the scene. And just like the ripple effects of this guy's actions are infinite and touched so many people over decades, for years to come, forever.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tragedy that affects people's lives. And so I thought a lot about that. And then the community of Jacksonville. And, this was not an easy case to tackle.
No, it wasn't.
It's complex with regard to the issues, but we got to talk about hard stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. We don't want to sweep anything under the rug. So
we talk about hard stuff so you don't have to.
We do. You know what? And one more thought I had. You know how it's always the quiet ones. And then also the things that he went through, unfortunate events. But think of all of the people who have gone through any combination of the things he has gone through, right?
Yeah.
And all this to say it's an explanation, not an excuse, right? Who hasn't been a paycheck away from having their car repossessed?
Yeah.
Or getting a big ass bill, or the loss of a loved one, or a relationship falling apart.
Going through a divorce.
Yeah, exactly. But so many of us have never turned to murder.
Violence.
So, or violence. Yeah, this is just a sad case. Let us know what you thought about it. You know where to find us. Now let's move on to the how not to get murdered.
Okay.
So, if you love true crime and you don't want to die, here's a tip for you.
This segment is not intended to be victim blaming. We thought of this segment because I read somewhere that a lot of people listen to true crime because they want to know what they can do to be safer. This is not meant to blame the victims. It's just learning from other people's experiences. What you got, Wendy?
Well, I don't have anything actually.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to say this is we're back from our break and we've had a chance to rest and reflect, and we are making some changes.
Yeah.
And one of the changes that we are thinking about is expanding the How Not to Get Murdered segment. Not just about safety tips, but y'all, the world is crazy right now. And we also need tips on how to survive.
Just how to survive.
How we can help each other. Things like that.
Yeah.
You got a good mutual aid link. Get at us so we can share those kinds of things just to let everybody know where we're coming from. So with that in mind, I did not come up with anything today. So please, listeners, with that definition in mind, how not to get murdered, but also how to survive.
Yeah.
And how we can help each other, get at us with some tips. So now, look at this. It's shout out time. Where we shout out any content by or about people of color or any true crime goodies.
Okay,
so I have gained knowledge through reading this author. The author is Frantz Fanon, Frantz, last name Fanon. And he is a Black, French, Afro-Caribbean psychiatrist, political philosopher, and Marxist humanist, concerned with The Psychopathology of Colonization. And so the book that I've started reading is The Wretched of the Earth. And my understanding is that people who are interested in revolutions and activism and civil rights and anti-colonialism and the psychiatry of hate and cruelty, then this is the guy that you need to start reading. So I got a copy on the Libby app, the free library app.
Yeah.
And it's not a hard read so far. I'm not,
Okay.
Wendy likes to listen to audio, but I couldn't find an audio of this book.
Reading.
Yeah. So I'm getting through it, but finding it inspiring given the current times that we're in. What's your shout out?
Okay, well, thanks for that,
Yeah,
first of
you
all.
bet. You bet.
And also shouting out the Libby app.
Yeah.
Because that's a good library app.
It's a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Add it to the How Not to Get Murdered section.
Yeah, there's our tip. So I just wanted to shout out a TV show that I started watching, and I binged like all the episodes that are available right now. I haven't really been able to watch anything too serious, but but this is a serious show. It's The Pitt.
Yeah.
It's about an emergency room in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's not real, obviously. It's a fiction show, but
that's why they call it The Pitt.
The Pitt, yeah. And the cast is pretty diverse. The main character is Noah Wiley, which is a white guy, and he was in ER. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yes.
He was in ER.
Oh, do I remember?
When he was a child, basically.
Yeah.
Now he's an adult.
Yeah.
And it's realistic. I think you'll like it because of the realism and like the goriness.
You said there's a lot of blood and
stuff.
guts. Yeah, no, actually, I have a date with my phone in my bed, and The Pit is queued up. Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to shout that out. It's a good show. I found it really interesting and captivating. So there you go.
I'm in. Okay, so just to recap, that is The Pit on Max, as well as an author and this author's book. The author is Frantz Fanon, and the book is The Wretched of the Earth. And the app that you can get this book for free from your local library is the Libby app.
Yeah,
and,
awesome.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all, folks. All right, Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media. The footnotes for each episode can be found on our website. Plus, check it out for the different ways that you can support the show. You can also join us on Patreon, where we have hundreds of hours of bonus content. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors, or by giving us a 5-star review.
5 stars only, please.
Don't forget to subscribe.
That's right. Now, this is a weekly podcast, and episodes drop on Thursdays. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there. A sipping my tea, drinking.
On to the show.
Yeah, you got really deep there.
Oh. Hold on just a second. I'm finished. I'm doing something. Sorry. What am I doing? What am I doing? I forgot what I was doing. Demolishing deteriorating housing.
Okay, let me get a sip of the old tea Rooney.
Okay.
And that too.
And a burp. A little burp.
Not good for the audio, you know. We're professionals here.
We're professionals, yeah.
Yeah. And by professional, I mean we're not really professional at all. Oh, I know
really.
what I was going to tell you.
That's fucked up.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
yeah,
obviously.
It is. Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it is. I don't like it.
Yeah, not a fan. Not a fan of that.
No.
For a brand new Pontiac Grand Am.
Pontiac.
Pontiac. Oh, that sounds nasty.
What's up? It does.
Oh my God.
Bow,
Sorry.
chicka, wow.
Let me start
What's
over.
going on with you in your older age?
I don't know. Pough traded in his old car for... Now I'm laughing. For a brand new Pontiac Grand Am.
We've been moving on up to a deluxe apartment. Sorry, I'll stop. So it said, we finally got a piece of the pie. So
let me say that again. I don't like the way I said it. Ready?
Okay. Wait a minute. Did we get tripped up?
Yeah, we flipped again. It's okay. We got everything.
Okay. Okay.
All right. And that's
it. Yeah, so I'll get this audio in the drive. Hey, my friend's having a birthday, and that is what I'm excited about. Plus, I'm going to watch the Pitt in 20 minutes.
Yes. I think you will like it.
Okie dokie. All right, Fran.
All right.
I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.
Okay.
Hey, Fruities, if you're into the kind of stories we tell here on Fruit Loop Serial Killers of Color, then you'll love the podcast Ice Cold Case.
For some people, true crime stories are fascinating, gut-wrenching, and heartbreaking. But this investigation into the murder of John Cornelius McGee is as personal as it gets.
Ice Cold Case is a unique true crime podcast where the host and the daughter of the victim, Madison McGee, brings a powerful, personal, and deeply unique perspective to the true crime genre.
Yes, agree with all those things. Now, Madison fearlessly tackles the unknown and will stop at nothing to find out what happened to her dad on July 11th in 2002.
Each episode takes you on the journey of her independent investigation in real time.
Yeah, one of the many things I love about Cold Case is how Madison is able to balance the emotional side of this story while also focusing on fact-finding and truth-telling, from speaking to county officials to family members to even interviewing the police's main suspect in the case. That was wild.
Yeah.
Madison remains steadfast in her mission to solve her father's murder. And while the twists and turns may turn away even a seasoned journalist from moving forward, she just doesn't give up.
And you know what? This is the perfect podcast if you love a deep dive into a specific case and want to put on your own detective hat and explore this riveting mystery.
Yes. Told from the perspective of a daughter fighting for justice, for answers, and for closure, Ice Cold Case is the most personal true crime podcast and will make you feel like you're on this journey alongside Madison.
Part 3 starts in April. Find Ice Cold Case wherever you listen to podcasts.